Hey friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie, and today I'm going to be showing you some of my favorite winter to spring transitional favorites. So as I'm sure you all know, I am a big seasonal wearer, and while I have shared so many of my seasonal favorites over the years, I somehow have never done this specific winter to spring transition time. As I've mentioned a couple of times on my channel, winter is probably my least favorite season, unfortunately, but I still try to enjoy it with nail polish and other fun things. But I can't help but just look forward to the warm spring months and all of the life and color that we see. And I feel like there's a specific set of colors or a color palette that really encompasses that. So I will talk a little bit more about these at the end. For now, let me just show you my favorites. First up, I have LynB's Apricity, which launched sometime last year, and it is this perfectly soft baby pink base color with a gorgeous warm glow from the shimmer that shifts from red to orange to yellow. I had no idea until a comment a little while ago that Apricity means warmth of the sun in winter, which I absolutely love. I feel like the vibes are so perfect for this video. I think these dainty, ethereal shimmers instantly translate that for me, and of course, this soft romantic pink is so perfect for February. And here's some extreme lighting so you can see how the shimmer shifts to yellow. I think it's so pretty and it reminds me of a sunrise. Next up, I have ILNP Soulmate, which is probably one of the newest releases as it came out last month for their Valentine's Day collection. This is a lovely, elegant ivory with a rosy undertone, making it such a bright and fresh kind of neutral or palette cleanser in my opinion. I normally love my pinks to have a little bit more color to them, but I just cannot get over how perfect and soft this is, and the formula is also flawless. Next, I have Ave Elwell, which is a pale lavender with a pink shimmer. The pink shimmer is admittedly pretty subtle and more difficult to see under my desk lighting unless you're looking super close, but it does have a nice delicate sparkle in the sun. I feel like the base in this one also leans more in that maybe orchid or lilac territory where it's very pinky purple, but still very white based, super pastel, and just so airy and soft. Next, I have an oldie from my collection. This is Noodles nail polishes Raindrops on Roses, which is a milky lavender kind of crelly base that is packed with these matte multicolored hex glitters in white, shades of pink, and sky blue. I think Natalie did such a great job capturing the name of this polish. I can totally envision little raindrops on this field of freshly bloomed flowers. It just gives those soft, rainy spring day vibes, you know? The next purple I have is Ave Irisation, which is actually from last year's spring collection. Honestly, that whole lineup can easily work for this as it was filled with these super pale and demure pastels. I'm always a sucker for a pastel lavender in the spring, but this one is even lighter and more white-based, so I think it's just perfect for this late winter to early spring season. And the last purple shade that I have is ILNP's Lily from their Velvet collection last spring. Now, you might remember that my initial review of this collection kind of had me feeling underwhelmed, but a few months ago when I shared my winter favorites, I realized that these soft velvets were just so perfect for the colder months. This is an almost dusty or muted purple jelly base, but with a glowing white, silvery magnetic shimmer that just makes it feel so plush. The next shade I have is Nailtopia's That's the Tea, which is an incredibly light pastel sky blue. I feel like on the first coat you can barely see that hint of blue, it just looks very white, but the color does get a lot more noticeable on the second coat, which I really love. I feel like the shade of blue is the perfect balance between winter and spring, but sadly I don't think Nailtopia is around anymore. Their website seems down and they haven't posted since December of last year, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I'm just going to continue to enjoy the few shades that I have. Next I have Picture Polish's Reflection, which is this muted gray-blue base with these silver hollow flakies. So this came out in summer of last year, but this shade just immediately gave me those icy winter vibes. I think it's so beautiful though. Like, the base color is another one of those stunning palette cleanser kind of shades, but the hollow flakies in this just give it such a beautiful sparkle. Then I have Cracked Polish's Like a Retro Dream, which is described as an icy mint green with white and green shimmers. So I personally don't think I would call this a mint because I feel like it's either a little too blue leaning or just very gray, but either way, I still really love the color and finish for this time of year. It's a little bit more on the sheer, almost pearlescent looking side, which I think adds to that iciness, and it might even be sheer enough to use as a topper, but I just prefer how this looks built up on its own, especially in 3 coats. Next I have ILNP's Velour, which was the green from the Velvet collection last spring. This one I feel like is even more muted, or it has this almost dingy undertone to the base, which again usually is not my favorite, but it just feels so fitting for these colder months. I feel like this is the kind of shade of green that you see the grass and leaves start to turn as they're coming back to life. Like, there's the mutedness from the winter cold, but slowly over time it gets more vibrant. The next green that I have is Cracked Polish's Spring Sprout, which came out last year, I think, as an individual release in March, and it's described as a glowing jade green packed with green micro shimmers. I absolutely adore this one. I think it's just so light and airy and fresh. This one almost has a similar pearlescent shimmer kind of formula, but I think it's just so soft and perfect for the season. But the color is just too cute. It is just one of my favorite greens from Cracked. The last green I have is from Color Department, and it's called Peace of Mind, which is described as an earthy pale green. So like the other shades, this one just has this slight mutedness to it, but I feel like it's one of the slightly more brighter shades in the lineup, almost having this avocado sauce color, which might sound weird, but I think it's really pretty. It also has a flawless, creamy kind of formula. I just love greens like this so much. It makes me so excited for spring. I have a few more shades. The first one here is Deborah Lippmann's Tenderness, which is described as a sheer dusty mauve. I personally do not find that description fitting at all. It is not sheer by any means, and I also wouldn't call it mauve since I don't see any pink or purple. If anything, I would say it's like an extremely light taupey shade, or just something between an off-white and a light gray. But either way, I am obsessed with how fresh this color is. I don't know if it can really be called a neutral, but it just provides this perfect blank canvas look. Next I have Mooncat's Petals for Narcissist, which is a pale gray jelly base with a pink purple shimmer. I feel like I've just been sleeping on this shade. It admittedly was one of my lesser favorites from the Seasons of Persephone collection, not because it's bad by any means, but I don't know, I was just more drawn to a lot of the other shades. But like a lot of the other shimmers that I shared in this lineup, this one has this really ethereal, airy quality to it, perfectly balancing the cool winter vibes with the base color, but bringing in some warmth and fun with the shimmer. And last but certainly not least, I have Mooncat's Head in the Clouds, which is this off-white, crelly leaning base color with a bright blue shimmer. Again, I feel like this is just one of those soft, wintry kind of shades that still feels bright and airy, like it's inviting those bright blue skies and wispy clouds that we see in the spring. Although the base isn't pure white, it's like a little bit gray, so I feel like that also kind of adds to those overcast, potentially rainy spring days. And finally, here is my collage of my favorites. I absolutely love how these shades look together. Like, you can clearly see the specific kind of tones that I think work so well for transitioning from winter to spring. So that wraps up my favorite winter to spring transitional polishes. As always, I can't wait to hear what you think of this lineup because it's definitely a very specific kind of color palette. I feel like a lot of people will look at these and just be like, ugh, boring pastels, you know, they're so dull. And I can definitely understand that. Like I mentioned, I think during like the collage portion, I normally just gravitate towards like more vibrant colors. But there is something just so satisfying about how like demure and soft these are, because I feel like they just perfectly capture the kind of coldness of the winter season with like a little hint of color where like spring is right around the corner. So even though this transitional period doesn't really last that long, I think it's just the perfect time to wear these more like subdued kind of shades. So make sure to let me know what you think of these shades and if you have any favorites, or just let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!